Our top focus, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman presented her 7th consecutive budget today, the first in the Modi 3.0 government regime. In some of the measures that stand out are the changes which have been made to the new tax regime, where more slabs have been introduced and the standard deduction has been raised from 50 to 75,000. For the salaried class, this would mean that they can save up to 17,500 rupees in a year. Long-term and short-term capital gains tax has also been hiked. Meanwhile, angel tax has been abolished, which is a boost for startups. On the other hand, something which also affects middle class and the salaried class, customs duty for mobiles, gold, as well as several 3 cancer medicines have in fact been slashed.
साथियों, एनडीए सरकार ने पिछले 10 साल में ये सुनिश्चित किया है कि गरीब और मध्यम वर्ग को लगातार टैक्स से राहत मिलती रहे। इस बजट में भी इनकम टैक्स में कटौती और स्टैंडर्ड डिडक्शन में भी वृद्धि का फैसला लिया गया है। टीडीएस के नियमों को भी सरल किया गया है। इन कदमों से हर टैक्स पेयर को अतिरिक्त बचत होने वाली है।
In the new tax regime, the tax rate structure is proposed to be revised as follows. 0 to 3 lakh rupees, nil. 3 to 7 lakh rupees, 5%. 7 to 10 lakh rupees, 10%. 10 to 12 lakh rupees, 15%. 12 to 15 lakh rupees, 20%. And above 15 lakh rupees, 30%. As a result of these changes, a salaried employee in the new tax regime stands to save up to 17,500 rupees in income tax.
अभी मैं बोल नहीं सकती हूँ। जरूर हमारी इरादा ये है कि सिंपलर टैक्सेशन रजीम होना चाहिए और सिंपल टैक्स रजीम की ओर अगर हम जा रहे हैं ये रिव्यू के द्वारा, वो ही हमारी मकसद होगा कि सिंपल कर दो। ओल्ड टैक्स रजीम को सिंपल करने के रास्ते पर ही ये नया टैक्स रजीम आया है। सनसेट होगा कि नहीं होगा वो अभी मैं बोल नहीं सकती हूँ। वो रिव्यू करने के बाद ही हम एक डिसीजन लेंगे।
And here on NDTV, we are featuring top voices both from the government and the opposition and their reactions to the budget. My colleague Gargi Rawat spoke to Union Minister Hardeep Singh Puri earlier today. Listen in.
And partners, well, to talk more about the budget, we're now joined by Union Minister Hardeep Singh Puri. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us on the program. So first and foremost, opting for the new regime and good news for alliance partners. Well, to talk more about the budget, we're now joined by Union Minister Hardeep Singh Puri. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us on the program. So first and foremost, let's talk about the criticism that's coming for the budget from the opposition. Our regional leaders like Akhilesh Yadav, Mamta Banerjee claiming that there's nothing in it for them. And given the announcements for Andhra and Bihar, they're calling it a Sarkar Bachao budget.
I would say, madam, that they should read the budget very carefully. So should also read what the Honorable Finance Minister says and they'll come to the conclusion. Well, you know, when you talk about Purvodaya, that is eastern, coming from the east, Bihar is not the only state in the east. There are other states in the east which are affected and which will benefit. Now, for instance, in the case of Bihar in particular, the problem there is not arisen because of anything inside the state of Bihar. It has also arisen because of some problems arising from Nepal. So if the central government helps Bihar vis-a-vis the problems on flooding in Nepal, I mean, how is that discrimination against other states? There are so many other states which have had problems which have benefited by central assistance. I could draw up a back of the envelope calculation for you how every state in the country benefits from the central government schemes. Therefore, I think that this criticism is what I call a quick off the hip kind of a statement. When they really analyze what has happened, they will come to the conclusion that there's in it for everyone. I mean, if Congress is criticizing Andhra, ask them, were they or were they not signatories to the States Reorganization Act in 2012? What happened at that point of time? They are signatories. If something is being done by our government now in pursuance of that, it's not only that, but we are interested in developing corridors, for instance, from Calcutta to Amritsar. Will West Bengal benefit from that corridor or not? Will the other nodes which will be created on that route, will they benefit or not? So I can give you the statistic. My sincere plea to all my friends in the opposition, read the budget, read the related documents, the annexure, and you come to the conclusion that you have to pick on some better point for criticism than this, because you will be laughed out of court if you only go on harping on this.
Energy security was a focus in the budget, and what was very interesting, sir, was the announcement that the government will be partnering with private sector to set up small nuclear reactors. If you could tell us more about that.
But you know, if when you talk of energy security, the energy is defined in the broadest possible term. Now, you know, we signed under the Congress government an India-US specific, India-US civilian nuclear energy deal. Then we also signed an India-specific safeguards agreement with the IAEA, and then we did some other agreement. But no commercial contracting took place. I'm not trying to sit here and pin blame on anyone. But the fact is, if you can now get some of your energy security issues sorted out through small reactors, that's a very good area for the government and for the states and for the private sector to explore. So I think we should welcome that development, as you should welcome the fact that we've done very well on biofuels. We are also making progress on biofuels. We have a global biofuels alliance. We're also doing things on green hydrogen. All these areas we are actually working and moving towards.
Now, there was a lot of, talk of the economy and Viksit Bharat focus also on the new middle class. Though the larger middle class, sir, are complaining that not enough was there for them in the budget. There were no big bang announcements.
No, I'm a product of the middle class. I'm a very much a member of the middle class, and I'm always empathetic to middle class aspiration. But when you look at what the middle class is, you'll also realize that the middle class is, their issues are addressed in many ways. If you address the problem of urban transport, metro, that benefits the middle class. If you do Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, 1 crore houses in the urban sector, that again helps the middle class, including some people who are below the middle class, economically weaker sectional or lower income group. But it helps the middle income group also. If you do all these things, civil aviation, that helps the middle class. If you build more airports. But to begin with, if you are spending 11.1 lakh crores on capital expenditure, which you are increasing at 30% every year, again the beneficiaries are middle class. Then all these things are, now the personal tax element is one which I think gets a lot of focus, because a lot of people say tax relief should be more. Well, there is relief. For instance, the slab which was 6 to 9 lakhs has now become 7 to 10 lakhs. The one which is 3 to 6 lakhs has become 3 to 7 lakhs. So there is provisioning there. There is relief. So there you provide relief to the middle class, and you encourage the middle class in a number of ways. If you simplify the TDS, for instance, if you simplify the GST slab, that helps the traders. So, it's not. So I would recommend that anyone who wants to take a view on the budget, study the budget in its totality, look at the provisions, see how each of these provisions works out, and you'll get a pretty good idea of why it is producing a feel-good factor.
Now, the big and welcome thrust was the focus on job creation. This is an issue the opposition has been targeting the government over. Also in the budget, an emphasis on reskilling, and a very interesting internship program was announced. If you could talk about that.
Well, I think it's a very innovative program. Apart from the announcement that you want to create 4.1 lakh crore jobs, you've done something else. You're going to give 1 crore of our youngsters an internship paid with a stipend of 5,000 rupees a month in 500 of our biggest companies. Now, the very exposure for 1 year for a youngster in a top class company itself is an education. And then you will help the company to finance this project through its CSR, which is corporate social responsibility. They can spend 2% of their profits on CSR. So this in itself is a very positive and innovative sign.
Finally, sir, what has been appreciated even by the opposition was axing of the angel tax.
No, that has been welcome. Yeah, this doing away with the angel tax on this thing, it's a very positive. There are many positives. You can draw up a long compendium of positives in that, and you come to the easy understanding why this is a feel-good budget.
Right. Thank you so much, Hardeep Puri, for speaking to NDTV.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Meanwhile, economist Sanjeev Sanyal joins us for his thoughts on the budget. Mr. Sanyal, thanks so much for speaking to us here on NDTV. And my first question to you, what according to you are the top takeaways from the budget today?
I think before getting into the highlights of the budget announcements, I think a very important thing which is not a part of the conversation I can see is the fact that the fiscal deficit has been continuously coming down. And this macroeconomic management of lowering the fiscal deficit now below 5% is a very important part of the macroeconomic stability and inflation control in the medium to long term. So I think this is a very good signal. Secondly, I think there is several elements in there which particularly look at pushing the private sector forward. I welcome, for example, the removal of angel tax, which has been around for now the last 10, 12 years and was a cause of some significant friction for startups. So the abolition of that is good. There is a big push towards apprenticeships and getting first-time employees onboarded into the formal system. Again, something that's a good effort. There is a big emphasis on the eastern part of the country, particularly Bihar, but also some of the surrounding states, and there are a whole bunch of infrastructure and tourism projects that have been put together. So, it's a long list. Others can read it, but I think the general thrust of it is quite clear.
Right. Also, according to you, how do the changes in the new tax regime translate for the middle class?
So I think everybody, when they come to the middle class, they, oh my God, there should have been even further tax cuts. But, you have to be careful with this for a number of reasons. First of all, a lot of the things that are being spent in the budget are for the middle class. I mean, whether it's in terms of providing formal jobs and that there's a big emphasis of that goes to the middle class. A lot of the infrastructure that is built is used by the middle class. And even as far as taxes are concerned, there are several measures here. For example, in the new tax scheme, there is, the tax slabs have been increased. For the salaried class, the standard deduction has been increased. And even where people are getting somewhat agitated for the long-term LTCG, their long-term capital gains, do point out that this is actually a case of simplification. They are bringing together the long-term capital gains on real estate and other assets and merging it and bringing it to the same level as that for equities and stock market. So yes, the one for the equities has gone up from 10 to 12.5. But the fact of the matter is for all the other categories, it's been reduced. And of course, there is a benefit of simplifying it all to one rate.
Right. Thanks, Mr. Sanjeev Sanyal, for speaking to us here on NDTV. And with that, we'll be slipping into a short break. News and updates on the other side will continue. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Now, the opposition has been targeting the government on the provisions which have been made for Bihar and Andhra Pradesh, claiming that other states have been ignored. There were financial assistance schemes for both states hemmed by key NDA allies, JDU and TDP. Now, the opposition's cried foul over this, and the Congress has announced that their chief ministers will boycott the Niti Aayog meeting scheduled to be held on 27th July. Tamil Nadu's Chief Minister M.K. Stalin has also announced that he will not be attending that meeting.
Well, they will definitely be protesting on the floor of the House as well as in Parliament and raise these concerns. But this is definitely has far-reaching consequences because cooperative federalism, if you recall, when the Narendra Modi government came to power in 2014, they talked about cooperative federalism. They talked about the chief ministers being the pillars of democratic and federal politics. And it's in this backdrop now that the chief ministers of Congress-ruled states, the DMK, the Jharkhand chief minister also saying what development is there. And I think the chorus is going to continue by opposition and India alliance bloc partners in terms of the fact that if you are going to do this discriminatory and give, for example, states like Andhra Pradesh as well as Bihar, we've seen even Naveen Patnaik say that the people of Orissa were promised by the BJP, but there's nothing that has been given to the people of Orissa. And it's in that context, I think this chorus will continue to become louder and a huge cause of concern for India as a whole, because you can't ignore the states, you can't ignore chief ministers, and you can't conduct meetings without them participating, which will have huge implications for center-state relationships.
News from the Supreme Court now, and there'll be no retest for the 2024 NEET UG exam. That's what the top court said in its order today, reasoning that there's no data to suggest a systemic breach or that the sanctity of the examination had in fact been affected. The court admitted the fact that the question paper was leaked is not in dispute, but said that there's no material on record at the time to conclude that the result of the exam was vitiated or there was a systemic breach in the sanctity of the exam. Data on record is not indicative of a systemic leak. That's what the court said. Remember, the Supreme Court was hearing a clutch of petitions demanding the NEET UG test qualifying examination for undergraduate medical courses to be either held again or cancelled.
हम सुप्रीम कोर्ट के सामने आज हमारे पक्ष रखते हुए ये भी वचन दिए हैं, ट्रांसपेरेंट, टेम्पर फ्री और जीरो एरर एग्जामिनेशन सिस्टम बनाने के लिए प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी की नेतृत्व की सरकार कमिटेड है। इस कमिटमेंट को आगे बढ़ाते हुए एनटीए की संपूर्ण रिवैम्प के लिए हमने पिछले दिनों में आप लोगों के सामने एक उच्च स्तरीय कमेटी का भी घोषणा किया था। वो कमेटी अपनी काम बड़े तन्मयता के साथ कर रही है।
Top international news now, and US Secret Service Chief Kimberly Cheatle has quit just days after the Trump shooting incident. Kimberly Cheatle resigned amid security lapses and scrutiny. Remember, the US Secret Service had come under a lot of scrutiny over questions as to whether or not the elite security agency, was doing enough in order to secure the Republican nominee Trump on that particular day when the assassination bid took place at a rally in Pennsylvania.
Given the immense backlash that the Secret Service was facing since the July 13th assassination bid on former President Trump, and given the fact that what were the lapses around the security at the rally, given the fact that the shooter was able to reach such a close distance to Trump and given the assassination attempt. So remember that the Secret Service's main job is in fact to protect not just the present US President but also all former US Presidents. So this was in fact a huge security lapse, and there was bipartisan calls for Cheatle's resignation. And in fact, she has said in a mail, according to various reports, that I take full responsibility for the security lapse, she said, quoted in an email by various reports. So, as you mentioned during her House Oversight hearing yesterday, Cheatle actually acknowledged that there were colossal lapses and significant problems with the security at the rally. So, now with her resignation, current President, US President Joe Biden has reacted to her resignation, saying that he and First Lady Jill Biden are grateful for Cheatle's decades of service, and they will also appoint a new director soon. Right. So they have also said that the independent review into the incident will continue.
And with that, it's a wrap from my side. Keep watching NDTV.